One of the things which I really should point out is the programme review and the funding priorities, which are at point 4. So 4.1 is it's been determined that the funding for the future programme is around £175 million. And the extent of the financial shortfall and the shape of the future HRA investment priorities has been considered in detail. And so the priorities are as follows, as suggested in the report. Priority 1 is that we still deal with the Welsh Housing Quality Standard Legacy Programme. That includes our high rise at the top of High Street, so Croft Street and Griffith John Street, and the Tudno and Emrys scheme and others. And we have a duty to those tenants to bring those properties up to the Welsh Housing Quality Standard. And I hope that members wouldn't disagree with that approach. Priority 2 is that we maintain the Welsh Housing Quality Standard condition compliance. So that means effectively making sure that when somebody leaves a property, what we've done to date is we haven't forced kitchen and bathroom adaptations on those homes if those tenants didn't want them. But when they become void, we will continue to still turn those around and bring those up to the Welsh Housing Quality Standard. Priority 3 is to maintain the More Homes programme and protect the £180 million allocated over that 10-year plan, specifically to help tackle homelessness. And priority 4, I should point out, is the Welsh Housing Quality Standard 2023 decarbonisation and additional duties. And it's not that we don't agree with the ethos of reaching that standard, but what we're saying is we will reach that standard and deliver that programme if we have additional funding from Welsh Government to do so, because we have, understandably, the other priorities that I've outlined, and our current HRA pot of money, we can only do so much and it can only spread so far. And then in conclusion to that, I want to point out the good news in the report at Appendix A. So next year, we propose to deliver over £55 million worth of investment. The following year, over 57 million. The following year, over 54 million. And again, 54 million in the following year, resulting in over £250 million worth of investment in the HRA capital programme to look after the council tenants that we have and to provide future homes for the future council tenants that we will come to know. So I'm happy to move the report, Presiding Member, and I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Seconder, please.
Happy to second, Chair.
Questions, please. No. We've got an amendment to this. Do we go to the amendment first, or is there a vote first? No. No. I think Ben didn't want to come in. Okay, sorry. I've got so many papers in front of me.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Hopefully this amendment is something that could be universally agreed by members here in the chamber tonight. There's been obviously some good work which has happened in housing, and I can see that, and I've had external people telling me the same thing. But what we've seen this year in terms of acquisitions is that we spent more on acquisitions than we expected to. Acquisitions are a quick way, comparing to other sources of rehousing or getting homes online, of getting people into housing quicker. You have to wait for planning permission or for houses to be built, and you know that process takes time, it takes money, and it takes energy, and it's not necessarily the best and most cost-efficient way of getting people rehoused. What I'm proposing is bringing forward the expenditure in the following 2 years from next financial year for the acquisitions element, and to bring it straight into the next financial year to mirror the kinds of expenditure and progress which was made this year. What I would also sort of side note, and obviously it's down to the cabinet member themselves to do this in the future, I would suggest that wherever possible, we look for straight acquisitions, What I mean by that is properties that already exist, either ones that are returning from right to buy or other properties in the community, and not to buy, as we have in the past, properties off plan who aren't going to be available within the same time period. So, for example, at the moment, we have a policy where we buy some properties within new estates. I don't object to that, but I think it would be good to see as many of the properties that are already existent, which are either right to buy returns or people in the community that we could purchase. And I can't see really a reason why we would want to do otherwise than this amendment. You might say, well, what about the money for future years? Well, Councillor Black made a very good point earlier about the reserves and levels of reserves in housing revenue. That money could be redirected for the future years programmes as a potential option. It's not that we're going to pull it all forward and nothing could potentially be available in future budgets. So I would just ask the members around the room to support this, because this amendment means that people get into houses quicker.
Yeah, can I have a seconder then, please?
Second the amendment.
Thank you, Presiding Member. And if I can respond, I understand the ethos behind Councillor Rice's amendment, but as I've just outlined in the report which I've just introduced, we have the flexibility within the business plan within the year to shift money around. And what we have done this year is move some additional money towards buying acquisitions. But I do have to point out that buying back ex-council properties alone means that we're increasing council homes on council sites, and we're going back to the council estates of old, when actually, when we look at the off-plan properties or purchasing properties from private developers, we create a better spread of council properties across Swansea, and we deal with the areas where we've got significant deficit of council homes in areas which are actually very high demand. And I'm sure that if the members in the Gower and the West would appreciate that youngsters are priced out of buying properties in their areas that they grew up in. So I don't think we should shift our focus from buying off plan and buying from private developers as well. That is part of the plan. We should do it all. And if we have opportunities in the next financial year to buy back more acquisitions, because we have, for example, more transitional accommodation capital programme funding from Welsh Government, as we've used that for acquisitions in this financial year. If we have more grants to do that, we will do more. And if opportunities come up, then we will take those opportunities to purchase properties. We're very careful in our assessment of what we buy, because we still have to be mindful that what we buy means that it's still got to reach Welsh Housing Quality Standard and Welsh Design Quality Requirement. So we can't just buy back any properties. They have to match those requirements. And if there's a significant expense to the HRA pot to bring them up to that standard, that is something that we have to consider. And if the condition of a property, for example, is very poor, then we would decide not to do that. So I do think that we still need to continue with our new home building. I hope members would appreciate that the quality of those builds are absolutely exceptional, and we're actually helping tackle fuel poverty by building those to an extremely energy efficient standard, and they reach EPC A rating, which is the best you can get. We're also delivering that, as members know, using our in-house workforce. Along with that, we're giving high experience to our apprentices, and we're using that model to deal with the ageing parts of our workforce to replace those with our apprentices. And our apprentices take great pride, particularly in the new scheme developments and having that opportunity. So I don't think we should channel all our efforts into acquisitions. The honest reply is we need to do it all. We've tried to build that into our business plan over the next 4 years, including this current year. And we will work and cut our cloth accordingly to the money that we have in the pot. So I believe that the plan that we've got before us is a robust plan, it's deliverable, but I will say, Presiding Member, that if we do get that opportunity to increase our acquisitions, of course, we will take that as well, and we'll consider every site and every property on its own merit.
Councillor Rice.
Thank you for your response, Cabinet Member. I don't think either of us disagree with anything that we've said. So basically, I agree with you. You do need to build new homes. You do need to buy off plan. This is just a motion in a sense of amendment, which I think you could probably just totally agree with in terms of what we've said.
Leader, sorry. And
Yeah, Chair. Look, the Cabinet Member is absolutely right, and I think perhaps what Councillor Rice misheard, perhaps in terms of the responses, there is already the flexibility within the programme to do this. It's an amendment that doesn't change anything, which is one of the reasons why we don't see a need to support it. In terms of the plan, well, we're reliant on officers like Mark Wade and Carol Morgan and the teams in housing who have mapped out what they think is achievable in terms of a programme. And as the Cabinet Member has said, if we can exceed that, we do so. But we've got the flexibility to do it within the programme, so it changes nothing. So, maybe Councillor Rice is feeling a little bit guilty for all the homes he sold off when he was a Cabinet Member, and now he's trying to make right for that. I don't know. But really, it's a bit of a nonsense amendment. It's only asking us to do what we're already doing. In that respect, I don't see the reason to support it.
And thank you for accommodating me, Presiding Member. Just coming in with one last point. If we shift money towards this, where do we take money from? And I've outlined that we've got significant investment planned in the high rise at the top of High Street. It's been long awaited. Those tenants deserve that. So the business plan has been constructed carefully so that we do right by the tenants. And I don't want to shift money that we have in the current HRA pot of money, the ring fence pot, towards something else when it's already been allocated to critical projects in our business plan. What I am saying is, if we get additional money from Welsh Government, we will make more acquisitions and we will do more.
Councillor Phillips.
To say, Chairman, that I'm grateful for that explanation, because my only concern was this with the Liberal Democrat was, well, we don't have a pot of money sitting £3 million next year, sitting there waiting to be spent. It's an allocation in a budget. It's only a figure on a bit of paper. So where was it going to come from? And I certainly, in terms of priority one, would not want to do anything that would disrupt our achieving priority one, because that's in my ward and those people there desperately need those houses upgrading.
Okay. Councillor Rice,
Just to clarify and to allay the fears of Councillor Phillips, if you listen to the technical advice which 151 officer can bring in, it has no impact on any other expenditure. It's about bringing forward expenditure that already exists. So in a sense, it's not going to take away from a house building programme or a renovation. It is literally about moving money forward and a device so that people who are in that department know they can buy more houses than they think they might be able to buy.
Sorry, Chairman. In my old age, I must be going stupid. Bring forward money that is committed to already being spent. From where? Where is this money sitting? If we got all that money that we could put on it, we'd have it in the budget now. It's not there. It's a provision. We are planning for the money that we will have next year to use in that way. I don't quite understand. It might be possible to say we'll increase this, but that, as I've said many times in this chamber, there's only one pot of money. You can divide it up how you like.
if you let me call Mr. Smith in,
the same pot.
So if you let me call Mr. Smith in, he might come back.
My question is, either Mr. Smith or Mr. Rice explained where the money for this is going to actually come from, physically.
Mr. Smith, would you like to respond, please?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. And to some extent, the flexibility is afforded as a result of the higher than the absolute minimum necessary balances on the HRA reserve. So Councillor Phillips is right that there is a concern that ultimately it would consume money, and it is dependent on there being sufficient money in those reserves. But Councillor Rice is also right that it could be brought forward. In allowing the proposal, simply because of the relative scale of HRA reserves, I allowed it from a finance point of view that it was neutral over the 2 years. on the basis of the assumptions that are likely to be the balance on the HRA reserve. But my reservation, which has been referenced by others, was I will defer to the technical advice of the police officers as to what they can physically actually do with any available stock. And Councillor Lewis is also right. At any point in time, we could always bring forward an FPR7 report to accelerate the capital planning assumptions if appropriate opportunities came about. If the HRA had a very much lower balance, then Councillor Phillips is absolutely spot on. We would not be able to magic it out of it, to use his sort of phrase, fresh air for a period of time. It is only because of the relative size of the surplus on the HRA reserve. And we have seen in the past where there has been some slippage on the capital programme, and then we've seen the HRA reserve rise, only for it to be carried forward into the following year and drawn down. So I am happy that it works from a finance point of view because of the buffer that's on the HRA reserve, but I would echo the concerns raised around I would defer to the expert advice of people who know housing inside out. Councillor Phillips is right, it is just a number on a page from my point of view. I hope that clarifies the position.
Thank you, Chair, but if I can come back on that then, I mean, would it not be right to describe the Uplands Group motion as being disingenuous? Because earlier motions we've had about amending the budget, and certainly ones we've had in previous years, talk about taking money out of reserves. Should this motion not have said we want to take forward the projected spend and remove that amount of money from the council reserves for the Howard Revenue Account for this year to do this? Because that's a different issue. If you look at this on the face of it, it seems, well, how could you possibly say no? You can say no because it will reduce the reserves in the housing revenue account, which are necessary.
We've been given advice all the way around, I think. So any more questions, please? Okay, it's been moved and seconded, so I'm going to go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that amendment falls. So we now go back to the substantive motive. So any questions, more questions to that? No? Okay, so the recommendations, there are 4 recommendations and they're on page 152. They approve the transfers between schemes and the revised budgets for schemes in 23-24. That we approve the budget proposals for 24-25, 27-28, and approve those individual schemes in Appendix B, which are programmed over the 4-year period as described in this report, are committed, and that the financial implications for funding over 4 years are approved. And to approve the prioritised approach to setting the work programme that is set out in the report. So can I have a show of hands for, please? Any abstentions? No. Okay, that's carried then, please. So we now move on to item what am I now? Number 13. So over to you, Mr. Smith, I believe. It's the statutory resolution.
Thank you, presiding member. And again, with your indulgence, I am going to have to display on screen as I am talking. Make sure I get the right one. So again, if someone could indicate when they think it has it appeared on the screen now?
Yeah, we can see it, Mr. Smith.
Excellent. Now, again, this is where I go into full Wizard of Oz mode. I remind you that on report 9, you ended up passing the original motion, albeit with my technical amendments for that £1,000 RSG guess and the 3 specific grant transfers. So this is the bit that Mr. Evans hates, because I've got to make some changes to the statutory resolution, because the statutory resolution must be passed in full to give effect to ultimately the decision you've already made on the revenue budget, but you've got to give effect to the council tax statutory resolution. So again, for avoidance of doubt as to what it is you're being asked to pass, it is that which is displayed on screen, and I again deliberately only change numbers, the pounds. So you will note that items A, B, C and D are highlighted in red because I've had to change them to give effect to those changes. The reality is A and B are taken away from each other to get to C, and then I have to take away the higher revenue support grant and non-domestic rate relief. The eagle-eyed amongst you will work out that the net of A, B and C is to add magically £331,000 to the above. And effectively in D, it is £331,000 more in the revenue support grant NNDR line. That has to be the case because I gave you a technical amendment, adjustment to give effect to £331,000 worth of technical jiggery pokery. But of course, it then means that the whole thing is neutralised, and you should be assured, because you would expect that then nothing happens to the standard amount of council tax, the amount for community councils, or the ultimate calculation being the council tax, which is in the item I displayed earlier in the report number 9 and was the original number quoted. So I have to make those technical changes in red, and I will send over to Mr. Evans a copy of the amended statutory resolution for those items in red, but it gets you back to the number I first thought of in terms of my advice to you, is the number that you have already effectively passed as a result of passing item 9. So apologies for labouring the point, but it is important that the statutory resolution is captured in full, and it is important you take a vote on the statutory resolution to give effect to the numbers that were already set out in the original papers, and it's just for me to tidy up the loose ends around the back. So I've used my Wizard of Oz metaphor. I often use my fuzzy felt metaphor on this one. If we ever go back to a year where we get a settlement 6 months in advance and we're able to plan fully for these things, I will never have to turn up and display these items on screen. I will pause before I take the screen down. I assume members have followed the advice I've given on that, but I will just pause temporarily in case anyone wants to clarify. Otherwise, I'm going to bring the gavel down on that one and remove my sharing of screen. And my clear technical advice is you should move, if you're so content to do so, that amended, adjusted technical statutory resolution to give effect to the decision you've already passed in item 9, and it makes no change to the published papers in terms of the business end of things, council tax that you are looking to charge, the levy that the precept that the levy police authority is charging, or any of the individual community councils. So my apologies for it being such a complicated thing to put on the screen with more numbers. If it gets much bigger, I'm going to run out of digits on my calculator for the adjustments, but it just about still limps in under my little calculator beside me. So hopefully I've done my maths right and you are content to take my technical advice, and potentially I would ask you to be looking to move the statutory resolution. Thank you, presiding member.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Leader?
Yeah, I'm happy to formally move, and if I can at this point as well, Chair, just pause to once again thank Mr. Smith and his team for all the work that they've been doing on the budget.
Can I echo what the leader has said about the financial team? They've had a horrendous time considering the compressed time they had, and thank them very much for all the work they've done.
Okay, we'll move to the recommendation.
Sorry, can we add these sentiments to the Uplands group as well to forward the thanks to?
Thank you, Councillor May. Any more questions? No? Okay, so we move to the recommendation then, is that the council notes and adopts the statutory resolutions as set out below, taking into account the amendments that have been made. Show of hands in all support. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried then. Okay, so we now move on to item 14, and that's the Treasury resolution. Resolutions to be made in accordance with the regulations in the setting of the council tax for 24-25. And again, I'll have to call on Mr. Smith, please.
So if I'm on the right page, we're now doing the Treasury Management Policy, and I just draw attention to page 202, because this is a horrible time of the night where you're beginning eyes to glaze over, and then I dump a 60-page report full of more numbers you can shake a stick at. I draw your attention to 202 because it shows the proportion of debt being serviced versus the spend power in both the HRA and general fund. There are many views and discussions and debates over the affordability and the proportionality, but my technical advice remains that I am perfectly satisfied that for both the HRA and the general fund, the amounts are reasonable, proportionate and affordable. The rest of the report conveys a whole raft of technical advice, my compliance and borrowing powers and matters I exercise under your delegation. It also includes written commentary from our expert advisors. It is not necessarily my views of the world per se, but we put them in to give a rich narrative around it. I also at this point emphasize that this is the most complicated report you have on the agenda for the night. It is technically complex. You have to some extent, rely heavily on your Section 151 officer's advice on this item, but it is the one that routinely, if it goes badly wrong in terms of the Treasury management strategy, it's the thing that can get councils into grave difficulty. So when you're being asked to consider the advice, notwithstanding it is complicated, you are really being asked to weigh up, do you think the Section 151 officer knows what he's talking about? Because there is a limit to the amount of stuff that you can actually fully digest in what I accept is a very, very technical document. So my advice would be, subject to members moving and considering you debating it and moving the report, that it should be passed, presiding member. But I will revert back to the chamber for relevant members to make the movements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sorry, thank
Chair,
you.
happy to move.
Okay,
Happy to second.
okay. Any questions on anything? Okay, then we'll move to the recommendations. There are 5 altogether. And the first one is to approve the Treasury Management Strategy and Prudential Indicators, sections 2 to 7. To approve the Investment Strategy, section B. Excuse me. Approve the Minimum Revenue Provision, MRP Statement, section 9. Notes the Interim Year Treasury Management Review 23-24, Appendix H. And notes the Annual Treasury Management Report 22-23, Appendix 1. So can I have a show of hands and support, please? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. That's carried. So we now move on to the next item, and that's, excuse me, Capital Strategy 23, 24, 28, 29. And again, I'd like to call on Mr. Smith, please.
Nice and super brief on this one. You've just approved a load of complicated numbers. This is the words to go with it. I don't routinely give any significant technical advice on it. It is a written explanation of what our overarching capital strategy is, and I think it stands as is. I'm happy to answer questions if any are asked, but at this time in the night, and you've heard more than enough of my voice and seen more than enough numbers, it's the words that go with it as the companion document. So I have nothing further to add, presiding member, unless members wish to ask questions of me.
Excellent.
Chair, happy to move.
Second up.
Happy to second.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Smith, please? No, okay, so we'll move to the recommendation then, and it's recommended that the capital strategy 23, 24, 28, 29 is approved. So could I have a show of hands and support, please? Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. So we now move on to item 16, and that's the naming proposal. And I'd like to call on Councillor Robert Francis Davis, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This is the naming proposal for the park that some people would say by the arena, or the park on top of the car park. It's about time we had a suitable name for it. The policy was adopted in the 25th of January 2024, and the coastal park. You see item 3, paragraph 3, show the key points. Paragraph 4 says the name Amy Dilwyn. I won't go into that. I will let Councillor Louise Gibbard, who's going to second this, speak on that. Paragraph 5 shows the integrated assessment implications, and paragraph 6, all the legal implications, financial implications, and you've got Appendix A attached to it. So happy to move this, and hope that my colleague can second this.
Skip it.
Thank you very much. I won't speak for too long. I know we're all very, very tired at this point.
Can you just second it first, please?
Oh, yeah,
Louise?
sorry, have to second the motion.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
thrilled to second the motion. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased that we're taking this step to formally approve the naming of this brilliant coastal park after Amy Dilwyn. I'd like to put on record my thanks to Councillor Francis Davis, Councillor King, the leader, and all the officers, in particular Tracy McNulty, for bringing together this report and the work that's gone on in the background as well. Previous generations took the opportunity to name streets, buildings, put up statues and monuments to celebrate the people that they believed at that time were the great and the good. But that vision was quite a narrow one, and it really hid the contribution of so many women, people of colour, disabled people, our LGBTQ community, and the working classes. It's really exciting that as we look forward with Swansea's regeneration, we're taking the opportunity to also look backward and redress some of that imbalance that this has been passed down to us. Amy Dilwyn was an extraordinary woman, a novelist, a campaigner for women's rights, a successful businesswoman in a fiercely male-dominated world. She also had the courage to live outside of society's gender norms. She referred to Olive Talbot as her wife. She wore stereotypically men's clothing and was very famous for her smoking of cigars. I hope that families will walk up Cupid Way, which we named 2 years ago after an almost forgotten Black Swansea sprinter champion, and to go and play in the Amy Dilwyn Park. And then they might ask, who were these people? Why is it called this? And then they'll be inspired to find out a bit more. So this week is the week of International Women's Day, and the theme is Inspire Inclusion. And I think that this naming does just that.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Mary Jones.
Okay, I know it's late as well, but I would like just to speak, if I may. Some of you recall, when I was Lord Mayor, I actually planted a tree for Amy Dilwyn on International Women's Day, because Amy Dilwyn's family were from Hendra Oil House, which happens to be in Councillor Gibbard and my ward, and Councillor Jeff Jones. And when her father died, she wasn't allowed to inherit the house. And but she did inherit the factory, and she did manage to turn it around because it was going into decline, and she got it back into a place where people were employed. But she did move then down to West Cross, and her home is, I think it's the ocean, it's the one right opposite the West Cross Inn, but there is a garden in West Cross alongside the West Cross Inn. I'm sure my colleagues in West Cross will know, and myself with the Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff, we planted a tree there on International Women's Day. So I'm actually delighted to vote for this, because I think it is something that we are very proud of in Swansea.
Anybody else? No? Okay, we're going to move to the recommendation. Then it's on page 277, and is that the council adopts the naming proposals as recommended by the Constitution Working Group. So I can have a show of hands and support, please. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to the next item, and that's councillors' questions. And the first question is from Councillor Peter May.
Councillor Rice will take this one.
Thank you, presiding member. I just got a couple of quick.
Councillor Hale declared a personal and prejudicial interest in this item. You need to leave again. I'll call you back in at the end of the item. Thanks.
Thank you. I've just got a couple of quick follow-up questions for clarification. I thank the Cabinet member for the response that they've given. I just wanted to understand exactly, out of the £4 or so million, which is seen as labelled as being spent within this financial year, how much has actually been spent and who's been spending the money. So, for example, is the money being spent by the council and on behalf of Skyline as a development, or is the money being transferred to Skyline in any format for expenditure? And the third one is any previous expenditure. I take it all of it has been done by the council and at the council's risk.
RFD?
The money being spent as stated to date is £85,000. That is to build up certain monies on the scheme that the council are working on. Who actually authorised it? I'm not exactly sure, because they all went through in the correct procedure. It had gone through cabinet that this money would be allocated, and that therefore we got officers been working on this, and it's been Hugh Mulberry and who when he was with us, and Lee Richards, reporting through to Phil Holmes, and reporting to Mark Wade now. Previous to that, he would be the chief executive, Martin Nichols. So there's a proper procedure, and checking the good governance on it of spending this money. This is a massive scheme for Swansea. That, as the leader said earlier, could bring in 450,000 visitors, and the business case shows in the first year going up to 750,000 visitors. This is major. I remember saying at the time when we had the opportunity that they were looking to come to Europe and chose Swansea out of all places in Europe. To me, this was bigger than us winning the City of Culture. The potential for this is enormous. But I can give you a written reply as the exact who authorised it at the time. I can't off the top of my head say who authorised it exactly.
Question for that. In that written answer, it would be really useful to know if the £4 million which has been allocated within this financial year is actually going to be spent, or if it's due to probably be slipped forward in some kind of a way. Because what you've just said is we've only spent, or due to spend 85, and we're in a few days of the end of the financial year. So in the next few days, are we due to spend £4 million?
This is money that is committed to be spent. It will follow its due process. We are, as you know, subject to a planning application. So it all depends. Nobody can prejudge a planning application. So it depends when the planning application is heard, whether that goes through, and the due process that will follow. But this money is earmarked for the scheme, which I hope will go forward sooner rather than later. It's already been delayed.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Okay, question 2 is from
Chairman, can I ask a technical question? Councillor Rice and Councillor Francis Davis is trying to be helpful, but is it appropriate that we would name individual officers who were responsible for taking the decision? Decisions are taken by the processes of the council. Officers are given responsibility to do things. If we could name an individual officer who was individually responsible, would it be appropriate actually to do so? The question is, were the decisions taken on the spending of this money appropriate and according to the law and the regulations? If the answer to that question is yes, that's all you need to know.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, and Councillor Phillips is certainly right. You know, we would have actually agreed the amount of money, and officers, we make policy, officers then work operationally within the policy that has been made and passed through. So probably I was wrong to name them. I was asked a question. I gave the answer, but I do believe that I got complete confidence in the officers who work operationally to deliver the desires and the wishes of this council. Maybe not everybody on this council, but this council majority.
From Councillor Mike Lewis, please. No supplementaries. Great. Question 3 from Councillor Peter May. Councillor Rice.
Councillor Rice.
Thank you, presiding member. I've just obviously looked through the previous responses that we've had in relation to education and the slippage of the programme. And I've just got a quick question for maybe the leader, if he's taking the questions. It appears, if you compare the summons for the budget meeting last year and this year, that there's been some quite substantial slippages or in the programme. So could you just explain why Brintowie, Gowerton, Lucca Kingsbridge have seemed to move back about 2 years in the prospect of their build?
I will have to get Councillor Rice a written answer on that one. I don't believe what he's articulating is entirely correct. There may have been switches in the programme because, of course, we've moved from what used to be Band A and Band B into a continuous programme now with Welsh Government. And obviously, we're going through a revised set of business cases for the next phase, including ones that we've recently announced, including the new special school, and of course the intention to open a new school on the Daniel James site where the previous school was closed. So I will get him a written answer. The Cabinet member is new today and I don't have the detail that he's asking, so I will get that for him.
Thank you. The next question is from Councillor Francesca O'Brien. There's nobody wishing to speak. Okay, next question is from Councillor Wendy Lewis.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. Would the leader agree that this new special school will be extremely beneficial and will no doubt enhance pupils' learning experience?
Yes, absolutely. This special school could potentially see £40 million worth of investment. This one. I think it's not a political point; it's a serious point we should acknowledge. Far too many of our children are having to go out of county for the support that they need. This will be a fantastic facility, about £40 million of investment. And again, when we're having really benign discussions around what we should borrow, etc., when you borrow to deliver a facility like this that will really have an impact on children's lives, especially children who have specific additional needs, I can't think of a better way to spend public money and to give that special thing. So in answer to Councillor Lewis's question, absolutely yes, it's a fantastic thing to do and will be brilliant for the children of Swansea.
Mr. Holly.
Yes, can I say I think it's a fantastic idea. I really do. I think having gone to Yscol Glas and spent some time there and helped in a very, very small way, I think the teachers and the people who work there are doing an outstanding job. And then to build a new school and a special school with everything that we've learned over the years about how we treat children with disabilities, regardless of their physical and mental abilities, I think it's a really good idea. And I don't know who thought of it, but whoever did, it's a really good idea. And I just welcome when it opens that we all go and see it and celebrate the opening of it and how the children are going to react.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. Okay, the next question is from Councillor Peter Black. No supplementaries? Okay. Question 7 is from Councillor Francesca O'Brien or Angela O'Connor. Councillor O'Connor, do you have any supplementary?
No supplementaries, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question 8 is from Councillor Leslie Walton. Okay, the next question is from Councillor Peter May.
Thank you. I'll take this one, a refreshing change here. Thank the Cabinet member for his answer on this. I'm particularly interested in his answer to part C. The consultation period ended on the 4th of February. But here we have during that consultation period, there were 2 public events. There were plans for the Walter Road section shown on the table, which 500 people bothered to engage with, taking their time and to make inputs into the proposals for the Walter Road section of the project. Is the Cabinet member in his answer saying that the bid was submitted prior to the consultation concluding And as I assume so, as we've not had the consultation report back. So is the Cabinet member saying that a bid for the substantive active travel programme in Walter Road has in fact been submitted prior to the consultation being concluded?
No, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. You know, we'll take on board comments from the consultation, and as you know, Councillor May, we do have an ambitious active travel programme in Swansea to provide safe provision for the people who walk or cycle through the area. So no.
So, sorry, to clarify, it says a grant bid has been submitted for the first place phase of work along Walter Road. So you're now telling me you haven't submitted the bid?
Can I clarify? The Cabinet member is absolutely right that I think if he chose his words as I heard them, he said that's not what I'm saying. What I believe he alluded to was the fact that yes, of course, we have submitted a bid as we do every year because we have a rolling programme, and we've submitted a bid I think 6-7 years ago now for the entire network in terms of a proposal. What Councillor Stevens did say was obviously we will take on board the comments coming back from the consultation, and that will inevitably affect potentially the design of the scheme and the options that we go with. Now, should we get to a position whereby the route cannot be delivered for any reason, then we could always hand the bid back. But if we had not applied for the money in the first instance, we would not be able to deliver it, even if we came up with a solution that was acceptable to everybody. And that's the position. And I would say, again, members have to keep in mind that what we are creating here is an active travel network across the whole of Swansea. It allows people to get from one part of the city to another, and it's not for one single ward to pull down the whole network. We are not a collection of individual NIMBY councillors. We have to think about the broader needs of the city. So Councillor Stevens was absolutely right. That what he hasn't done is to make a bid which says we're going to do it this way. That we will take account of the consultation, and I don't think his words should be misrepresented.
I'd actually take issue at that, Leader. First of all, I'd prefer it when the Cabinet member actually answered his own questions without being bailed out by his leader.
Excuse me, point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. I will decide if I answer a finance question or not. Councillor May asked a question about a grant. As the Cabinet Member for Finance, I'm responsible for all grants in this facility. So I will decide who is the appropriate Cabinet Member for what part of the question. If he wants to ask about the detail of the active travel route, I'm sure Councillor Stevens will advise him on that. But I deal with finance, and I will answer finance questions.
Okay, so I will return onto the active travel theme of it, which I hope Councillor Stevens will in fact answer. So can members, affected members in that of Castle, Sketty and Uplands Ward actually have sight of the bid that was actually submitted, please, together with the plans? Because, as I said, people turned up to that consultation event in good faith to make modifications to the plan. So what exactly has been submitted to the Welsh Government? Can we have sight of it, please, or do we have to resort to freedom of information request?
Yes, thank you, Councillor May. Yes, you can have sight for that, and I did misunderstand your initial question as the way you word on it. You went round and round and round and round and round. But I do take umbrage in what you said in those comments. To be quite honest, there wasn't really any need for that. As I said, as I told you earlier, we've got an ambitious active travel programme in Swansea. And our focus, and as the leader said, our focus is not simply providing active travel infrastructure within a community. It's about making sure that we link up neighbouring communities so that eventually residents can safely travel anywhere in Swansea, or either on bike or foot, offering safe travel options for everyone. And as you might know, there has been a bit of checkered road safety concerns along that stretch of the corridor, and the active travel route could seek to address that. So,
one final point. So how does what has actually happened reconcile with the consultation strategy this council passed a couple of sessions ago? In other words, submitting a bid prior to a consultation ending.
Again, if Councillor May will not object, as the Cabinet Member for Finance and as he's talking about the bid, as I tried to explain earlier, we always apply for the route on the basis that a scheme will be agreed of a certain aspect. There may be differences in design, there may be differences in routing, all of those things are potential, but we have been successful more than any other council in Wales in terms of securing active travel funding. So it does not predetermine the route or the design of the scheme. As Councillor Stevens has said, that consultation will continue to feed in. Further discussions will be had, and hopefully we can come up at the end of it with a route that the majority of people can corral around and support. But there is still the opportunity, as I said earlier, if we got to a position where it couldn't be delivered for any reason, then we would hand that money back to Welsh Government. I wouldn't want us to be in that position because, of course, Welsh Government quite rightly say, well, if you're not a serious authority about delivering on the schemes that we're prepared to fund, then we will not look kindly on future funding. So there are risks in that. But as I explained, this is about creating a network. And I think the original plan went in 2017, 2018, maybe. So, if Peter May, or Councillor May is concerned, then he's 6 years too late.
Councillor McEtrick.
I won't belabor things. Actually, a lot of the points have now been covered. I shared some of the concerns when I saw that. I think some sort of active travel, as you say, has been on the plans for a long time, and I'm broadly in favour. I've cycled up that road. It is dangerous, but the details do matter. And the questions have been covered. It's just an appeal. Can we please try and get these consultations in as early as possible? There is huge cynicism amongst the public about these already. They think it's rubber stamping. And when things like this happen, that only reinforces that. So I think the questions have been covered, and for brevity, I won't say them again, but please, can we try and get the consultations in earlier?
Councillor McEtrick. Councillor Fogarty.
Thanks. Yeah, just on the back of that, I would say that the cynicism in the public is not helped by these kind of questions coming in from specific wards. I wanted to ask, would the Cabinet Member agree that given the first line of his answer is that this is the key strategic highway corridor for all modes of highway users, that actually this is about investing for all of the people of Swansea, whether it be people who are coming in and out of the city centre, whether it's people who are working along that route, frankly, whether it's people who are breathing the air of Swansea, because that's what active travel is all about. It's about modal shift, moving people out of their cars, which are highly damaging for the environment, and giving them alternative options. So, yeah, any comment on that? Thank you.
Absolutely spot on. Yes, I would agree.
Councillor Phillips.
I suppose this is a question to the leader. Would he not agree that it's a bit rich of Councillor May to come here demanding answers from Cabinet members on particular questions, when, if I remember rightly, during his term as the Cabinet Member for Housing, he not only never presented a report to Council during the whole of his time, but when there were any questions or any difficult things, he never bothered to turn up at all.
My recollection, I think, is similar to yours, Councillor Phillips, and I do not recall many occasions when Councillor May contributed or fetched a report to the council. But again, we are talking many years ago. However, I will go back and try that. He may have said something in some meeting at some point, and then he'll call us out. But no, look, one thing I am clear about is the Cabinet members that we have at this point in time are certainly very much more capable and very much more briefed than than some of the colleagues were at the time, because for many of the items we didn't have Cabinet members presenting reports. It was often officers, and we are now a member-led authority.
There was no need for that at all, and I think you should apologise, because I don't care what you say. The people tried their very best, and you should acknowledge that, because we all stand on one another's shoulders. Fair enough. If you didn't particularly like the individual, that's fine, but please do not disparage them.
I meant no offence, but I will hold by the point that I believe this administration is well briefed and they are well on top of their portfolios.
Come back on Councillor Phillips's remark about me. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend a council meeting, as it was
Pardon
10
me,
days,
Chairman.
as it was 10
Hang on,
days.
we're not having crosstalk
Yeah.
across the chamber.
Chairman, my question was directed towards the leader. He can't answer
Okay.
questions from me because I'm not asking him.
Okay.
No, this is the
Point of
point.
order,
I think we
Chair.
need to move on, okay?
No.
Point of
But
order, Chair.
I want to explain the reason that I wasn't at a
I've got
council meeting.
I've got a point of order from councillor Daly.
The point of order is that this is councillor question time. It is not for table tennis questions to go back and forth to individuals. If he doesn't like the answer, it's a bit tough. He's asked a question,
Okay.
he's had an answer.
Okay.
Let's move on,
Dear, oh
please.
dear, oh dear. Yeah, one rule for one for another.
I said he's entitled to an explanation, okay? So I'm going to let you speak.
Very much. The explanation I will give Councillor Phillips is that, yes, I did meet Miss a council meeting as cabinet member of the budget. The reason for it was the last time I saw my father, and he died 10 days later. So apologies for missing that.
Councillor Hopkins, did you want to speak? No. Okay. We move on to the next question, and then it's from councillor Mike White.
No supplementaries, Chair.
Thank you. The next one is from councillor Francesca O'Brien or Bridget Rowlands.
No supplementaries on behalf of them.
Didn't catch that, sorry.
Sorry, no supplementaries on behalf of them.
Okay.
And
Councillor
Councillor May,
McGettrick.
my condolences about your father.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick one. Great to see that discussions are taking place, and probably not a shocking one because I did ask something similar to this before. But are you in a position really to guarantee that all the hydrogen is going to be green for this? Because there is going to be huge pressure on hydrogen supplies coming forward. Virtually every industry's default position is we'll just burn hydrogen. If there's one thing more bonkers than burning fossil fuels, it's burning fossil fuels to make hydrogen, to burn hydrogen. So just, is there any update on that, please?
Yeah, I'll try and be brief. So essentially, part of our strategy is to ensure that we can create hydrogen in our own region, and that hydrogen is green hydrogen. So part of that is linked to the Tidal Lagoon, the new Tidal Lagoon proposal, the new mega energy hub that's associated with it. You're absolutely right. The challenge at the moment is getting that green hydrogen supply network up and running. That will come in time as hydrogen demand increases. And obviously, the work that we've been trying to support with bids to UK government have been around the development of hydrogen ferries. We weren't successful. The company that bid on behalf of the region wasn't successful in that one. We will continue.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from councillor Fiona Gordon.
No supplementaries, thank you.
Thank you. Question is councillor Peter May.
Thank the cabinet member for a very helpful response on that. It's not a parochial question, is it? Even though it refers to an instant case, it's about the procedure with missed bin collections. In the majority of time, missed bin collections are in fact reported back by the crew. The consequence of when one is not reported back by the crew is what we're touching on here, because it can lead to sacks, particularly if there's sort of black bags with food in them, actually staying in the vicinity for up to about 5 or 6 days, which we've witnessed. So can the cabinet member make strides to advising through chains of command that miscollections at all times are reported by the crew back to the depot so that they can be picked up at the next available opportunity, please?
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor May. Can you bear with me? I know it's late, gentlemen, ladies, but since the question was asked, written in, I've made some inquiries, and our records show that only one mop-up has been organised for the Uplands area. All waste streams on Wednesday, the 28th of the 2nd, 24. Black, pink and food were affected by this. Can I say that
The results of the staffing issue that occurred earlier in the week, but had a knock-on effect through the remainder of the week. 15 instances in 7 streets in the Uplands area have been reported for access issues since January 24. So there's only been one miscollection on behalf of the council since January. Penmain Terrace on two occasions had blocked vehicles. So black bags, plastic and food waste, total no collections at all. On the 7th, again, garden food waste down. 15th to the 2nd, black bags. Long Oaks Avenue, Uplands, 17th to the 1st, black bags. On the 14th of the 2nd, plastic and waste, food waste. Fanoni Drive, on the 17th, black bags only. Rosehill Terrace, on the 10th, black bags, food waste. On the 17th of the 1st, plastic bags, food waste. On the 7th of the 2nd, green bags. 14th of the 2nd, black bags. Cambridge Street, garden and food waste down. Montpellier Terrace, Swansea, Montpellier Terrace, they were down green bags. Over the last 2 months, 165 access issues have been reported since January 24. Approximately 9% of the issues are in Uplands area. Presiding member, can I just suggest one thing? Can Councillor May, instead of bothering our CWATs team every time they're in the Uplands ward, can he channel his efforts into talking to the residents who constantly block up access to the streets? And can I ask if he can put this information on his Facebook pages so that the residents are told the truth why they are having miscollections, and hopefully this will stop tarnishing the good name of this council and the hard-working operatives out there because of block streets and issues with parking.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just a quick question. I appreciate all of the responses and the work done by Councillor Anderson and the team. My feeling is, though, that even though we highlight some of these issues in Uplands, we all know that this is across the city. This happens in lots of different places. I mean, I know of one street, and I'm not going to name where it is. I regularly visited it. They've had 2 black bag collections in a row not collected. There shouldn't be any access issues in that at all. There seems to be something that we need to get a handle of, and anything we can do to help you, yes, we'll do it. We'll certainly advertise it on our social media, but there seems to be something wider that needs to be addressed in terms of staffing levels, equipment, or whatever it is. But we all know around this chamber, and I'm sure if I ask people to put their hands up, they've had miscollections, and it's got more over the last few years than it was in the past.
Yeah, just to come back on that, yes, we've got a tired fleet at the moment, and as the leader announced earlier on, we've just invested in 37 new vehicles. And they're hopefully coming in the very near future. So these down issues with the vehicles should be non-existent. And secondly, some of our staff do, they're out in all weathers, rain, shine, snow, wind gusts, a lot, do get ill. COVID, and just remember, these front operatives in COVID were in every day, working their guts out for the likes of us members and our residents. So, but I will make sure when there is missed collections, you are advised.
Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you. Yeah, just to confirm, we've had a lot, particularly in the last couple of months, actually, of missed rubbish collections in Mumbles too, particularly on Oakland Road, which seems to be a problem. That the lorries are driving down there, but they're not collecting anything yet. They're going to the roads surrounding that. Apparently, one resident was told that it was caused by insufficient lorries. Would you be able to tell me what that means, please? Insufficient lorries.
Okay, thank you. The 30 minutes are up for question time, so that's the end of the evening. And thank you all for your patience and your understanding, and good night and safe journey home.